Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Voice of Houston right here at UHN TV. Roku is where you're going to go to see us. As well as we have YouTube and other devices that you can use. We are so elated that God has blessed us again to come before you. I want to tell you about our ideas and what we are thinking about. Dr. Bobby Mills, my co-host, is very into everything that I don't know about. He does. And we pray that we will give you information, talk about things that you would be interested in as well as we are interested in, so that we all can get together and do what we need to do to get it together for the whole group of us. And that is including all nationalities, but especially blacks. Amen. Bobby, Dr. Mills, that is.
Yeah, Bobby. That's on my birth certificate.
Just about Bobby is on there. That's Clara is on mine as well. The issue that I want to bring up is about the legislators. Our president spoke to the UN
Different factions within
about
the
what he
Democratic
wanted
Party.
to do in regards to the United States and keeping a relationship with all of the nations that are involved in the UN. And he brought up one of our main ideas, his idea, and I go along with him, is infrastructure for the country. But my worry is who is going to hire? Who's going to be over it? How it's going to be worked out? Because we still can be left out like we've been left out so many other times.
Well, I think that the way the bill has been structured, both the hard infrastructure in terms of roads, bridges, etc., as well as human infrastructure in terms of strengthening families and providing the necessary child development type resources that we need because our children are our future. I don't think anyone will really be left out. I think that
You think?
no, I really don't. I think Biden, to me, has presented himself as an individual that does have a God conscience. And I think he has surrounded himself with individuals at the cabinet level who have a God conscience. And they understand that we are one country. We may have different ethnic backgrounds and may have come from different parts of the world, but we are one nation now, and we either live together in peace and harmony, or we will perish together as other nations have in the past. So I think he has the kind of mentality and the approach to government that provides the format for everything being on the table, but everyone also being included. He's not dealing with excluding anyone.
Well, I'm talking about labor. I'm speaking of the labor because infrastructure includes labor.
Yeah.
For bridges and highways and all those other things that need to be done, drainage for when we have floods and how we're going to contact with that, gas. And when I say gas, I mean fuel. How we're going to use the fuel, and who are going to be the ones to be involved in it. It's automatically we know that there's going to be the Caucasians that's going to be there. But what about the blacks of the United States?
Well, what I'm saying is I think that Biden has demonstrated from a leadership point of view, vantage point, that he's inclusive.
You
His administration basically reflects the character, the ethnic and racial character of American society. He's trying to include everyone, and certainly he's included a lot of women in his administration. Because when you look at the cabinet positions, there are a lot of women, and there are women of color involved in very key positions. The person who is head of, housing and urban development, is black. And, he has people who are advising him in the White House who, are black. So I don't see that as being the issue.
So if that's not the issue, then why is it taking so a long time for this infrastructure to start?
Well,
this
you know what the
year,
problem
isn't
is?
it?
The problem is we have a two-party political system, and one party got one foot in democracy and one foot in autocracy.
That's the truth.
The Republicans don't want to actually be democratic in terms of their approach to American society. They want to be autocratic.
Yeah.
Because they're looking to promote one thing and one thing only, and that is white privilege.
Yes.
That's the political platform and mentality of the GOP at this particular point in time. They are not inclusive. They're not thinking about anyone other than maintaining control and having that control within the hands of white males. And what they don't understand is that even if this becomes a majority-minority society, white men will always be in control because they've had 400 years of wealth building, power building. So no matter what happens.
Because that's another way of fooling the white man or the white men into thinking that
they're going to lose power.
They're going to lose power, but they can't lose power. They can't lose any power.
They will always
whatsoever.
control this country, or they will destroy it.
Yes.
And
so
the way they're going now, they probably will end up destroying it because of their own stupidity.
Yes, instead of thinking about how important it is for all of us to live together, instead of living separate, as if you have a higher calling.
We live together now physically, is that we are separated spiritually and mentally because we have never really come to the realization that we're one nation under God with liberty and justice for all. We can't come to that.
Oh, they're speaking heavily. In God we trust God. We do this for God. God wants us to do this. How is
the God that they have reference to is the God that's printed on that money.
Yes.
When they say in God we trust, they talking about them greenbacks.
Nothing, because right now we don't have anything to back it up.
They're not talking about
but
God
the people,
the Father.
It's just the
God
people.
the
We are the ones that are backing up this country with our taxes and Social Security number and driver license numbers. They're keeping up with us with that, and we know that the banks are ruling this country as well through the IRS and all of those kind of things. But we still need people in place that are conscious of love, caring, sharing, and doing things for the good of the whole instead of the part. And that's where we stand with the Republican Party, is that it's not good for the whole, but for the part. And the part will always separate and always bring you down, partly, being apart from what it ought to be. And I look at that in regards to how we treat each other in regards to how we look, whether we better than the other. It's not the truth. The truth is that we all of God, and He made man
Well,
man,
Well, the truth
and
is,
women.
the truth
And we
is,
have the same blood.
well, the truth is that death is the equalizer.
Oh yeah,
That's the equalizer.
that's for sure.
Because if white people didn't die, I would serve them because they would be God. But since I know
Did they die?
they die sooner or later, you know,
Right.
and we all will have to give an account of the deeds that we have done
Yeah,
in
that's
our
true.
flesh spiritually, because it is written,
Wants to die.
once to die, and after death,
Judgment.
judgment. So I'm not concerned about, the attitude that many whites, have in terms of their superiority and white privilege oriented thinking. I'm not concerned about that because I know that God said He knew me before I was
in my
conceived.
mother's womb. Exactly right.
And created within my mother's womb.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm worried about whether or not I know God.
That's right. Well, it's a shame
I
that
know
this
He knows
country.
me, so I'm worried about whether or not.
Well, I'm worried simply because it's a shame that this country has left God in regards to the laws that are being passed and the laws that are being put in place, that God is being erased. And when you erase God, you erase yourself. You erase your country. God deals with nations. He deals with individuals per se, but He deals with nations. And this nation has been a beacon light for God, for goodness, for love, for showing caring. And then now it's like we don't care anymore, especially since the former president was in office. He had no regards for God, nor his fellow man. It was all about himself and whomever else was with him. And that hurts a nation. It hurts a nation badly.
What you're really saying, Dr. Brent, is that the former president had no regard for truth. That's
Well, when you
the
don't have
issue.
the truth, when you
because
don't have
God-
love, you're a liar in the first place.
God is the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And when you tell almost 40,000 lies that they count,
That's quite a few lies, yeah.
that they
I don't
counted
think Satan lied that fast.
and cataloged over a 4-year period. That's a lot of lying. That's a lot of lying. And so consequently,
And I hope they're not trying to think about putting him back in office. That's
no,
just
I mean that's not gonna happen.
that's pitiful.
If
You want to see our nation
if-
really die.
the former president becomes the nominee in 2024 of the GOP, it will no longer be the grand old party. It will be no party because they will.
You know, the
they will
grand
extinct
old party
themselves.
used to be the Democratic Party. I think the Democrats have moved to the Republican Party.
No, the Grand Old Party wasn't ever
The
Democrat
Democrats?
Party. See, you got to understand they did a switcheroo on you.
Well,
The Republican Party was always the Grand Old Party because of Abraham Lincoln.
okay.
It was the anti-slavery party. The Democrat Party was the slavery party.
Mm-hmm.
And the Southern
Sure.
Democrats are the ones who gave Martin Luther King and all of the civil rights leaders and gave them holy you know what. So the Democrat Party did a switcheroo. The Republican Party basically.
So the grand old party is the Democratic Party. Oh no! Oh, it's the Republican Party as
originally
history is
was
told.
the Republican Party. But what has happened is the Republican Party in Texas, in the state of Texas, the Republican Party was controlled by blacks.
Yes,
The
after
head of the
Civil War.
Republican Party was Gooseneck McDonald and old man Cooney from Cuny Holmes
Yes.
over there by Texas Southern University. They ran the Republican Party.
Right.
And the whites, Democrats came in and took over because it was basically dormant, because there was nobody in the Republican Party but primarily a few God-fearing whites and blacks. And so consequently, they went in and took it over. So the old Dixiecrat Democrat Party took over the Republican Party, and what the Republican Party is now is the old Dixiecrat Democrat.
Yeah, that's
and
what
what
it is.
And what the Democrat Party now is the new Republicans.
Yes.
So they've done a switcheroo on you to confuse you.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of blacks
A lot of whites are confused as well.
And get confused and start dealing with party labels and all that kind of stuff, when you need to start looking at the individual
The infrastructure too.
and what platforms and issues they are putting forth. Because when you look back, you've had some decent, good, God-fearing type people who were Republicans that were, president. And, you have to admit that Lyndon Baines Johnson probably had an experience with God and got a God conscience or something. Because, we got to say...
He did something.
He did something. He did a holy heaven kind of thing when he got the Civil Rights Bill of '64 passed and the Voting Rights Act. Because nobody else could have gotten that done.
I disagree with that, what he did do, and I surely disagree with what they accepted from him. I believe that we should have been, and of course at that time I was just beginning to enter college, but the issue is that if you're going to do something for the blacks, make us all right. That civil rights is backing up on us right now. It should have been that we just got the right to do whatever we had to do because we were free. We were free in the first place. So since we were free, why you want to make another bill to say that we're making you free again? That's the way it seemed to me.
No.
And I thought sure that should not have been a civil rights thing. It should have been a right thing to do. The rights to do what what it was intended for us to do when Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves. That he had that in place and they erased it all.
Because you got to understand.
So bring it back.
So what was going on is that the Dixiecrat Democrats were passing all kinds of Jim Crow laws in order to deny blacks their rights, especially voting rights and their civil rights, where you could not use... Why
do we have to have civil rights? That's all I'm saying. Why we have to have civil rights when you already have rights?
Well, you have human rights according to the Constitution of the United States, but you were denied those rights.
But the issue is give them back.
Well,
give them back to us.
But see, you were denied those rights by law.
Make a law and give it back.
That's what.
But civil rights, you see, that law has been almost erased.
No. Well, see, that's what I'm saying is we continually have to fight for our civil rights, obviously. But it wasn't that, we were...
like we weren't citizens in the first place.
Yeah,
that's the way I looked at it. I said, I'm born free, I'm born right. So why are you taking this as if.
But see, initially
not-
they had defined you as 3/5 of a person, of a human being.
That was erased with Abraham Lincoln.
But
That's
I
what
keep
I'm
telling
saying.
you,
Why would you?
But the Democrats, who were Southern Dixiecrats, and they wanted to maintain that slave system because it's just like when Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation.
Yes.
It was agreed that blacks would get
The same
reparations.
privileges.
Wait a minute, reparations. Let's deal with that issue.
Okay.
40 acres and a mule. Now, you think those southern plantation owners and so forth, they wanted to give up 40 acres of land and a mule, and many of them didn't know how to work. So if they had given blacks in the South 40 acres and a mule, many whites would have ended up being very, very poor and having to work for blacks because they didn't know how to work. The Southern whites didn't know how to work. That's why they wanted slaves. They didn't know how to work, and they didn't want to work.
No, they didn't. I understand that part, but the part that I'm speaking of is the Civil Rights Bill. The Civil Rights Bill just didn't do anything but back us up to me. I really didn't. I couldn't believe it. It was a backup to the schools. We were doing good in school. We were doing good with our own businesses. We were doing good in our own communities. All we wanted was, when I travel, I ought to be able to go into this restaurant and not say black and white on the side. That's what we were fighting for. I mean, that's what Martin Luther King. I'm not Martin Luther King. That's what Martin Luther King and the rest of them were fighting for. And I don't need your what you put out there in that Civil Rights Bill. All I needed was to have the right to do whatever I was privileged to do in the first place. The privilege is that you don't take anything from me. Don't take me out of my school.
But you didn't have the right to do it because they had the Jim Crow laws.
But the Jim Crow laws that wasn't only for the southern states, it was for the northern states as well. They had all that mess going on. But
they didn't have, the northern states didn't have open laws.
They've taken that civil rights away from us already through the Supreme Court. That happened in 2009, 2008, something like that. Where they took that Civil Rights Bill and just balled it up and threw it in the trash. That's what it looks like to me. It seemed like that's what they did with that Civil Rights Bill, because we really don't have that privilege still.
Well, part of what you're missing.
I agree I give Johnson the credit what he did do, and
because he had an epiphany.
That was a rumor that he took a lot of arms and twisted them.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
wasn't no rumor. We know he did. He told certain of them Southern
to get that
senators, hey, look here, say, hey.
Yeah.
If you're not going to vote for this, you go fishing, because you know what I'll do?
Yeah, I'll expose it.
That Air Force base or that Army base or this or whatever, I'll take it out of your state. I'll do this and do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was a magnificent
move on his part. I give him credit for that. That he did do that.
You got to give God the glory, but you sure got to give Johnson a whole lot of credit.
Yes, I give him credit for that.
Because I don't think no other white man, especially Southern white man, would have been able to do what President Johnson did.
Yes, I'm not taking it away from him. I'm just saying that it seems as if we shouldn't have accepted it. We should have gone with just, I want my rights.
Well, you wasn't gonna get them because the white folk had the guns and the bombs and the billy clubs and the dogs
and the trees to hang you on.
How are you gonna get them? So the only way you could get them is through some decree of law and hope that they would have enough God conscience to obey the law.
Yes, now I get you, but I still
even George Wallace from Alabama, he had an epiphany.
Why didn't they just leave us alone?
Well,
There was so many black communities have been destroyed because they didn't want to see us even survive on our own. Like the Chinese, they have their own little section. They don't care whether they come out and you blacks come to their business or whites come to their business. They just want to be able to survive in America.
Well,
We couldn't survive in America.
Well, part of what the issue has always been, Dr. Brent, with us, is that we are an inclusive oriented people. We don't think about excluding people or participating in trying to harm other people. That's not our spirit.
No, I'm not speaking of it in that
that's
sense.
not our
I'm
spirit.
not speaking of,
So
I'm just saying
what
we
our
used to have our communities where we had our own grocery stores.
What our problem is that we stopped loving and serving each other
like we used to.
internally within our own communities.
Well, I agree. I have to agree with that because we get further and further away from
there
it.
you go. That's what
Yeah, because
happened
if they killed the hog in the community, everybody had a piece of that hog.
Yeah.
And if
Or
you
whatever we shared
yeah,
with one
we
another.
shared with one another, and you shared
And
with
we-
your
and
you
you
didn't
know
have
why?
to lock
You
your
know why?
doors and all those other things that
And you
that
know
has
why?
to go on now
You know
in
why?
our communities.
Because we had a spiritual internal value system
And love for one another.
that we lived by.
Exactly.
We did not have an external materialistic value
And
system.
I can't understand why we can't get back to that.
Well,
of
we
course,
can't get back
it's
to
going to
that
take some time, of
because-
course. I think we can do it.
Well, we can't get back to it right now until the church changes its paradigm.
You're talking about the black church, of course.
Yes. Well, that's what we're talking about.
The black church, of course. Yes, the black churches are losing.
Because we know what the
people
white church is about. The white
Yeah.
church, that's why only white people are in the white church. And they're not going to receive too many black people or any other colored group of people because they use Christianity to help promote white privilege.
Yes.
That's why 11 o'clock on Sunday morning is the most segregated hour
it used to
in
be.
America. Ain't no used to be, still is.
It still is, huh?
Yeah,
I can't tell because I go to black church. Anyway.
You no matter where you go nowadays,
I don't know.
you go to any suburban white church, country white church, it's primarily white people.
Yeah, that's true. That's true because
So
they
you
have again
And see, God is not dealing
divided
with
themselves.
That's right.
They
God is not
divided
dealing with
themselves.
separation.
And God doesn't believe in that. But anyway, if that is the case, then we should keep our churches, black churches, that is, viable. Go to church. Get involved in the community that you live in. And most of us live in the black community. Now, some of us do live in the other parts of the communities, but that's for and in between. The ones that have a little exchange
Well, most
and all
black
that other
people,
stuff.
regardless of where they live, whether they live
Well, I'm
in
talking
urban
about
areas or suburban
well,
areas,
what
they
I'm really
attend,
talking about is
they attend black churches. Most black people attend black churches.
well, what I'm saying is that even when if you live in a black community, and I'm talking about majority blacks, then that majority ought to be going to their individual church, to
Their neighborhood church.
their neighborhood church, to promote, enhance.
Community development.
Thank you, and that's where we are not anymore. Whereas the community
Well, in
used
many
to rely on them.
instances-
They complain about got too many churches, you know. But I said if every person in this community, black that is, would go to each one of these churches, every one of them would be filled. if it's a block away from each other, 2 blocks away from one another. If all of us would go to church, every one of those churches would be filled, the community would be better, because then God is in that place, in that community, in that city where blacks are. If we would stop wanting to be black-white.
Well, to me, Dr. Brent, it's not so much that blacks want to be white. It's that
They want the same thing whites have. That's what it is.
We switched the paradigm from living from the inside to the outside to living from the outside to the inside.
Well, didn't that...
And so our value systems as blacks has become external and materialistic. That's what the problem is. And when you have an external materialistic value system, what you love is things and the acquisition of things and not people. And so when
we gotten lost that much?
That we have. And so when you love things and not people, you have misplaced, misguided priorities. See, a priority is nothing but a value. It's what you value. You got too many black people now, they value riding around in a fancy car, or wearing fancy clothes, or having this external whatever and so forth. And it's not about the way we used to live prior to 1964 and 65. When we lived as a people, we had to live from the inside to the outside. Otherwise, we could not have survived with white folk.
Wouldn't have survived, period? Or are you thinking?
Well, we couldn't have survived with them. Because with the pressure and the suffering and the dehumanization that the system built up against us, how are you going to survive? Everywhere you went, you saw even the signs, white only.
Well, that's the truth. And then I saw when you had in Oklahoma and there's another state that they just came in and just started messing up the community, killing people in Florida, killing people and all of that.
Destroyed all their property, their homes, their churches.
And nothing was done by the government. If there had been blacks, we'd have had a war going on.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a war, but it would have been all the blacks would have been eliminated. That's what I'm thinking.
Right.
Yes.
Well, it would have been genocide.
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm thinking. And it happened in parts of the United States, but it happened. Yeah. That's the issue. It happened. And it's hard for a group of people to survive all of that insecurity. I call it insecurity.
What happened to us, even in terms of our religious posture and our religious communal kind of living, we got into the external thing where now you got pastoral leaders, they competing with one another about who can build the biggest church building.
Yeah, instead of the biggest church, which are the people.
Yeah. So it's not about building lives, building families.
Yes.
It's not about strengthening families one by one. It's about strengthening my pocketbook.
Yeah, and that has to quit, because it seems as if you're not working for God, but working for yourself. And that's another block. That's another block that people are not.
We don't have too many.
The word passes on. Well, I ain't giving my money because it ain't helping the community. It's helping the pastor. It's helping this, and all I'm asking is that those that are watching or those that are listening to us, you should decide,
go to church before you try to. No, go to church before you come to church.
Now, how's that going to happen? I know you all are thinking about, how is that going to happen?
Well, what's going to happen is that if you have a God-centered family where you pray together and you have family devotion and worship, and you have your family oriented toward love and understanding
Yeah, okay.
among your family members, when you go to the physical church down on the corner, you'll know what church is all about. You're not going to go in there looking at Sister Susie and seeing what kind of dress she got on, what kind of hat she got on, and all this other old foolishness that people like to deal with when they go to church. So a lot of people are not going to church with a sense of spiritual consciousness. They're going because they're looking for some kind of external entertainment. See, the church has become an entertainment center for a lot of people. Oh, girl, you know.
You should have heard that choir this morning.
There you go.
Yeah, I understand.
And nothing
exactly.
about well, if you ask them, well, what was the sermon about?
I know one thing. He's preaching on me.
Well,
But that's
no,
that's
you're not even going to hear that.
That's not the issue, though. Really, the issue is that we need to bring ourselves back to that old landmark.
Yeah.
That's the biggest issue, is to go back to the old landmark. That's the caring of each other, in a sense, that
And the sharing.
and the
Caring
sharing
and the sharing.
Yeah, caring and sharing, which we have lost, and we need to get back to that. And I just have to bring up Facebook. Facebook has become our church, and that's not God. That's man that you're looking at, and you can't put your phone down. You got to see what they doing on Instagram and all that. God is the Instagram.
No, that's vanity.
Well, I don't understand that, but he should be the
vanity is the
Instagram.
devil.
He should be the Facebook. That book called the Bible ought to be in your face, and you should be reading it. And then you should also share what you have read and receive at your church house, where you're supposed to assemble yourselves together and show love for one another. And that's where we have lost that togetherness, that
Well,
entity.
because we have not been taught in recent years, since 1964 and 65, that you are the church.
Exactly.
What know ye not? Your body
Is God's temple.
is the temple of the Lord.
And that means he's living in you. And it's
most
hard to live with a spirit of unnatural dislike.
Well, God can't
He can't
reside
live. He can't abide in that.
with
And so we are working against ourselves. Tell the truth.
yeah.
We're working against ourselves. Now, just to change the subject, how do you, there is a 45 bill that was passed for our young people. I'm just sick and tired. Tell the truth, I'm sick and I'm tired of the education.
You like Fannie Lou Hank. You sick and tired of being sick and
of
tired.
Yeah, just sick and tired of
Being sick and tired.
Yeah, just sick and tired of educational status. I could say status of our children. How we decide whether they are capable of being of entity that will promote this country. If we test them, they ought to be able to do it, do what they have to do what they need to do if they are tested. And the test will determine whether you will make it in life or not. I'm tired of that. Tired of the way they setting up our children for failure. And most of this black and the minority, Hispanic and whomever else it is, because public school has become a laughing stock to me. It's nothing but a laughing stock.
Well,
and what?
Dr. Brent, the real problem that we have is the breakdown of the family.
Okay.
Well, let's
Okay, go ahead.
follow me for a second here.
All right.
See, family is the first institution that God created.
Mm-hmm.
And he created it for a reason. And consequently, your family is the first school. That's where you go to school first. Now, in the black community,
that used to be everything. Whatever starts at home spreads abroad.
Yeah, there you go. So now, it used to be back prior to 1964 and 65, almost 85% of all of the black children in this country, they grew up in a two-parent family.
Daddy was black. He was at home.
Daddy and mama.
Yeah, both of them was at home.
Grandparents and so forth.
Yeah, stable.
Now, fast forward to 2021, you got less than 20% of our children growing up in two-parent homes. Now, if your family is the first school, who are your teachers?
Well, we got to look at the calls now. Hold on.
Wait a minute, we ain't got to go. We can get to the calls.
Okay, let's go to the calls. Okay,
because some of the calls lies with us, not just with the system, because prior to 1964 and 65, we had almost 90% family intactness, and we certainly had to go through more hell with the system than what we have to experience now. I know you agree with that. It was much more difficult when you and I grew up in terms of our parents to earn a decent living, you to get a good education, go to college and all of that, than it is now.
Of course.
Okay. So now,
what?
With the breakdown of the family, and your family is the first school, because the first teacher you have is who?
Black.
No, your mother.
I see what you're saying.
See, the first teacher
was mama. Yes.
is your mother.
Yeah, and the daddy was the enforcer.
Now, the first thing your mother has to teach you is to love your father.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
That's the first thing she got to teach you, because every child knows its mother.
Mm-hmm. They don't know the daddy.
Wise child knows their father.
Mm-hmm.
Every child knows its mother, because from the beginning, spiritually, the mother and the child, they what? They one. The moment that egg and that sperm get together, spiritually, that mother and that child, they done bonded.
Right.
So now, when you have that family system break down, because who is it that has to teach you what to love and what not to love? It's your mother.
That's true.
And most of our children today are growing up loving and learning to love what?
Their mother.
The wrong,
the wrong people.
The wrong, not the wrong people, the wrong things.
All the wrong things. I
they
got you
growing
now.
up
You
like
talking that's where you are.
Yeah, they growing up learning the wrong things.
The wrong things. And the wrong things is?
A whole lot of things. They putting tattoos all over themselves. They loving tattoos.
Mm-hmm.
They loving rings in their nose and all this kind of stuff. And all that, everything. Looking all wild and crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And undisciplined. Because
whereas when the father was in the house, there was discipline.
Because if you can't discipline yourself,
you're not going to.
You sure not going to let what? Anybody else discipline you.
Exactly.
So a lot of our children, they are going to school what? Undisciplined.
Mm-hmm.
Now you got a dual problem.
What's that?
The next problem you have is the teachers that you and I had
don't have that love, no
these teachers now, they're not the same teachers.
No, you got to get it.
You ain't got the same teachers that you and I had. No. See, the teachers that you and I had
Care.
From the time I went to kindergarten to the time I got to the 8th grade,
They care.
all of my teachers were women. I didn't have a male teacher until I got to high school, the 9th grade.
They care.
And you know what?
They took
Them
the
women,
substitute.
those female teachers that taught me, the first thing I knew about them is they loved me.
Yes. They
And they wasn't in that classroom for that paycheck.
no. That's true.
They was in there because they loved teaching and they loved children.
That's true.
So we learned. We learned. And we respected them. When I go back home,
But you
I used to go back home and I take my wife to see all of my teachers. Every last one. She said, well, how you know these people? She grew up in Chicago. She was amazed. She couldn't believe it. How you know all your teachers? I take them to my principal. And they tell me, Bobby, we all knew you were going to make it. You were going to make something out of yourself. And I told them,
and you look
know what I
forward
would
to
tell?
seeing them after you had accomplished
There you go.
what they put into you.
I went back to them
Yeah,
to
you
thank
look
them.
forward to seeing them and telling them what
There
you
you
had
go.
and letting them see. I did the same thing. All of us did the same thing.
There
Tell
you
the
go.
truth.
So now you got a whole different kind of scenario, and even
Well,
the
they don't
teachers,
allow, but
even
the law
the
does
teachers,
not allow you to even show love. Even if you did have love for the children, you have love for the. Even if you, I don't think all the teachers right now are out of sorts. I think they want to love those children that they're teaching what they and show love, but they can't. They can't even touch them now.
Well,
It's against the law to touch the child. That is so crazy.
what I'm saying.
But what I'm saying
I
is that you
understand.
got to stop passing all these old crazy laws.
Yeah, I
And
understand
you got to
that,
move
but
these
also you
children
got to
into-
understand that
What?
we have turned teaching into a paycheck system too.
Well, that is true,
Yeah,
but it
you know,
didn't have
it's all
anything
about
to do
the
with
paycheck,
It doesn't have the thing to do with the people
and it's
that are
not
teaching.
about the student.
It has nothing to do with the people that are teaching. It's the laws that are being passed. They,
Well, it has something
and then,
to do.
and then it's the parents as well,
Wait,
because they take for granted that what the child says.
It also has
Mama,
something.
she did so and so to me. Mama runs to the runs to the school and said, "Y'all touch my child. I don't want nobody touching my child."
Right.
That kind of
because she can't discipline the child.
Yeah, can't discipline themselves, and then they don't want anyone else to discipline them, and to help with the growing up of that child. It says it takes a village to raise a child, and when it comes down to black people, we have lost that. We've lost that village mentality, because when I was growing up, if our neighbors, anyone in the neighborhood, saw me doing anything wrong and they brought me in correction, knowing that not only did they bring me in correction, they also went to my mother or my father and told them about the correction. And they didn't disagree. That's the issue. They agreed. What you doing that so and so and so? They didn't disagree with the person that told it in the front of me what I had done to the parent, and the parents didn't say, "Oh Lord, that girl ought to be ashamed of herself," but they brought me in correction. That now you can't even bring a child in correction with the parent, because the parent always understands that the child is always right. My dad used to tell me that you got a split in your mouth, you'll lie.
Well,
So if you lie, you're gonna lie. And so I got to first find out what's going on before I agree with you.
well, the first thing you have to understand also now about what's going on in the teaching profession is that it used to be when you and I was coming along that there were limited professional opportunities for blacks. So one of the career paths for us, primary career paths for us, was teaching.
Well, for women, yes.
Well, listen to my point here.
Okay.
So not just for women, it was even for men. you know, in teaching, especially at the high school levels
Yeah, well,
and
yes.
so forth.
You could see them there.
But now, society has opened up, and there are a lot more and different kinds of career paths. So a lot of people have gone and they majored in different fields. They didn't major in education and teaching, and they didn't go through student teaching the way you did or the way I did when we went to college.
Right.
So they didn't have that teaching
Stability.
experience
Stableness.
in a professional classroom with somebody for an entire semester their senior year in college. They may have majored in psychology or
business
or what
else,
have you,
yes.
and couldn't get a job.
Then they come to
Now they find out there are a lot of job openings in education, so they want to go in, but they have not gone through that pedagogy type system. And they didn't have that love and desire for that
child
profession. That
for the
profession
children, period.
first.
You can't have that profession.
Yeah,
unless
that's what
you
I'm
can-
saying.
Yeah, I
but
understand
first
where
for
you're going,
for the teaching profession, and then because you love children, okay, they run in tandem. Okay, so now they go and they get into some alternative certification kind of program, and it's all about what? A paycheck.
Now it is.
That's what I'm saying.
Beforehand it
So
was.
now you
But
got
not
a whole.
all the teachers are not like
No,
that.
I'm not
but
saying
we
all of them, but I'm
understand
saying,
that we
but
know
that
where it
is, but that is a problem because now you have a lot of people in the teaching profession who did not go through what?
the proper steps.
Manual steps
Steps.
to
Yes.
become a teacher, and now they're dealing with an alternative kind of process and so forth.
But you
so
know
it's
that-
not. It wasn't their first love.
But you notice that the teaching profession, those that were really interested in teaching, are leaving. Too much.
Ramming Alabama.
Yeah, ramming in Alabama. That's a good one. It's just too much going on.
Yeah.
It's so much this criminal things happening in the school system that
And
should
that's
not
why
be happening.
even now, even the state
It's
of
wrong.
Texas, you know, the starting teacher salary is they're $60,000 for 9 months with a bachelor's degree.
Well, they're trying to find
Coming out.
teachers evidently.
Yeah, right. And they're
Yeah.
trying to find teachers.
And then you have
And then what you have is people who went to college and may have majored in
everything, engineering and all kinds
whatever,
of things,
and they
couldn't
can't get a
that
job. And now, hey, let me go.
Yeah, you see,
Default.
And and then there is no caring for the child.
No love for children.
Yes, and especially through kindergarten.
And so
all the
now
way
you
through
got
elementary
all
school.
of that conglomeration of confusion going into the school
Well,
where these children are coming out
I put it
of.
on the legislation. I put it on the legislation. I do. I put it on the state with their passing of and trying to change.
And see, too, you got to acknowledge now
Do I?
that a lot of these children that are going to school, they don't have the kind of parents we had. These single mothers,
Yeah,
they're going to the school.
They're too young to even be grandmothers.
There you go, and they frustrated and
Yeah.
throwed off and
Yeah, that's
whatever.
true.
So they'll go up to the school raising all kind of hell and want to cuss about the child and this and that.
And the child
and
be
they
lying.
one can't discipline child. They got the child all throwed off.
Yeah, because they can't discipline.
They
Because
can't
they used to tell us that you can't have a child at too young of an age. You got to mature yourself before you start thinking about having children. And then it started in the 80s mostly, and then it moved further and further into the 90s and 20s, and that they were having children too fast.
Yeah,
Children having children is not good.
not good.
You can take care of your sisters and your brothers, but the mother is still there.
Right.
But when you become a mother at a too young of age, you're not ready for that. Your child think you their sister or their brother, and they don't feel like You don't have no
Well,
more. You have no more of an experience than I have.
But you don't have the value system
And even
to
if
teach. See, it's one thing I tell young people all the time, and I told people this last Sunday at church. The greatest lessons in my life I learned from women. Lessons that
I'm quite
helped
sure.
me
To be mature.
become
Yeah.
a solid, mature human being. And the first lesson I learned was from my grandmother. I was 10 years old. And they were farmers, and we lived in the city, so I would go
I can
up.
imagine.
All of us, huh?
I said I could imagine what you went
Yeah,
through.
so we would always have to go up and help farm, raise that corn and pick that cotton and all that kind of stuff. And if you wanted to eat, so we had plenty to eat, and I didn't know anything about being hungry and all that kind of stuff. Because my granddaddy, on my mother's side, man, he was farming. He could grow them greens and had hogs, and so
And you
we
had to go out there and pick 'em
but you had to help produce that stuff.
Yes.
And
hold.
so when I was 10 years old, I saw the system, the way the white men treated my grandfather. I said, oh man, I know I'm not going to go up. I'm not going through this because somebody's going to get hurt.
At 10 years old, you had made your mind up.
I made my mind. I'm not going to take this kind of mess. I'm not going through this.
Yeah.
I'm not going through this. So I go to my grandmother. My grandmother's name was Bessie. I said, Grandma Bessie, I don't like this. I don't like the way these people treat my grandfather. We get out there and pick all that cotton. He tell you he gonna give you X amount of money.
Then he pull out the book.
know you got 12 bales of cotton, cause you done weighed that cotton out there in that field, and you know that a bale of cotton is 2,000 pounds. You get down to the goddamn gin.
Until you don't have it.
And he tell you you don't have it, and he treat you. Then your grandfather mad. He raising hell. The white man tell you got to take your cotton somewhere else. He ain't got nowhere else to take his cotton. Then what he done promised he gonna give you, he can't give it to you. You mad at him. He mad at the white man. Everybody mad. So I'm saying, I'm saying to myself, I ain't going through this. Cause somebody gonna get hurt if I go through this. They gonna either hurt me or I'm gonna hurt them. So I go to my grandmother. I said, I can't take this. My grandmother looked at me. She said, well, Bobby, you gotta go to college. I told my grandmother, I'm going to college. I said, but I got a problem. She said, what's your problem? I said, I need to be in my book studying. I don't need to be out there in that field with my granddaddy.
You figured that out already.
I figured that out. I'm like, look, I need to be in the book studying. I don't need to be coming up here. I need to be.
My mother told me that when I was.
My grandmother told me, she said, well, can you take a behind with me? I said, yeah. Every time I go out there messing with my granddad and them white folk, I'm taking a behind with them. She said, well, go out there and let them mules run away with you and mess up some corn rolls, cotton rolls, and everything. He get mad at you. He gonna whip your behind real good and tell you lazy and trifling, you don't want to work. And for you not to come back out there and you go get in your books and study and be smart enough to get you scholarships and so forth and go to college. And that's exactly what I did.
Praise God. Well, we're going to have to close, you all. I enjoyed it. I hope you did too. With the way we discussed the things that we need to change and
Current
the things that we need to,
conditions in our society.
Want you to know that God loves you. We love you too. And be sure to keep your city clean. Keep your trash in your car. Don't throw it out in the street. We love Houston, and we want Houston to love us. God bless.